Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good stuff, and welcome on, what do they call this? Hump Day? It's Hump Day, everybody. Welcome here. We're glad you've made it halfway through the week. I am flying solo here today. So it's just going to be you, me, in an intimate little setting around a campfire of glorious love, talking about all things intimately about movies, movie news, TV shows, and streaming, and all that kind of stuff. And it is good to have you guys here today. And listen, before we get going on a lot of our regular stuff, a little bit of house cleaning I want to remind you guys about. First of all, don't forget, I know you can't always be in front of a YouTube channel watching the John Campea Show daily, but you need your daily fix. Good news, there is an audio-only version of the John Campea Show that we put up on the John Campea Show podcast feed. It's just simply the John Campea Show podcast. Go to your favorite podcasting app of choice, search for the John Campea Show podcast, and subscribe to us there. And by the way, I never ask you guys to do this, but tons of great ratings and rankings, so please can rate, comment on it, all that kind of stuff, and continue to do that. And then the show will be there when you need it, whether you're driving or jogging, or maybe you're at a gym or something like that. The show is going to be there for you. All right, guys, here's how today's show is going to go, guys. We got a number of predetermined topics that we have lined up. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. How do you get a live comment or question on the show? Easy. Look in the description of this video and you're going to see a tip link. Simply click on that there, or you can enter it in manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, primarily, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. And all of us here involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys for that support. Okay, guys. Before we get into our main topics, there is one off the top that we should discuss here, and that is this. You know, it is fair and unfair at the same time. When you talk about the Star Wars prequels, and you know, those have been a lightning rod for many, many, many years. I personally think they're complete garbage. Some people love them, and all that is great. All films subjective, and if you love them, that's awesome. I celebrate that you love them. For a lot of people who don't like the prequels, unfortunately, the poster child, kind of as the representation of all things bad about the prequels, has fairly or unfairly been the character Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks, just your average Gungan, living his life, stumbling across a couple of Jedi while he's out for a walk one day, and his whole life gets thrust front and center for the universe. He becomes a politician. Ladies and gentlemen, Jar Jar Binks becomes a galactic politician, introducing the bill in Senate that ultimately led to Palpatine becoming Emperor of the Galactic Empire. And, you know, all that sorts of stuff. Then the fate of Jar Jar Binks was kind of talked about and addressed in one of the Star Wars novels that kind of on a little side note, takes place on the world where Jar Jar Binks is now just a street clown. He's a street performer, and people still hate him for his role in getting Palpatine made Emperor. All that. So poor Jar Jar. I mean, he is kind of the face of everything wrong, but I mean, again, poor Jar Jar. Anyway, the reason we bring this up is because last year, like early last year, a whole bunch of rumors started swirling around. You guys remember this. A whole bunch of rumors started swirling around that in this new upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series, that they were going to have Jar Jar Binks. That Jar Jar Binks was going to play some kind of a role in it. That can now, I mean, most people knew not to believe it. Most people knew not to believe that. But it has now been officially put to rest. As Ahmed Best, who I have met, by the way, Ahmed Best is a very cool guy. Ahmed Best, who of course did the voice and the motion capture for Jar Jar Binks, he has come out and officially put those rumors to rest. He said the following. He put this out on Twitter where he said, "Thanks for the love, but I will not be in this series. As much as I would have loved to have been a part of it, but I am ecstatic to see folks who I love dearly back together doing great things." So very classy tweet put out there by Ahmed Best regarding this thing. And you know, look, we live in a world, guys, of like really silly rumors and really silly official confirmations that are obviously pure BS that get out there. But while most of us never did believe the Jar Jar Binks rumor that was going around, the fact of the matter is it wasn't the most ridiculous of rumors. I mean, when you look at it, it's, Obi-Wan had a relationship with Jar Jar. They are, in fact, bringing back Hayden Christensen. Now, that's not a direct correlation, obviously, but I mean, hey, if they're bringing back the one character from the prequels, is it not within the realm of possibility that maybe they could do another one? So I've never thought, I never for a moment believed that Jar Jar was going to be in the Obi-Wan series. I also didn't think you were particularly an insane, crazy person if you did, because, I mean, when you look at the scenario, it is not the craziest thing in the world. There could have been something to that. However, just to be clear, for those of you just joining us a few minutes late, those rumors about Jar Jar Binks being in the Obi-Wan series, put them to rest. Ahmed Best himself has come out and said that's not happening. So there you go. Question is for you guys. What do you think about that? Do you think maybe the addition of a Jar Jar Binks could have been an interesting thing to do in the Obi-Wan series? I don't know. Maybe it would have been fun. I mean, I don't think it would have been a particularly wise idea, but at the same time, maybe it could have been fun. I mean, I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's get into our main topics here today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, that's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with our main topics. Whenever you come across a big issue, story, or topic that you think we should have as a main topic here on the John Campea Show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. And by the way, Rampage Predacon sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Rampage. Appreciate that, man. Okay, guys, with that down, let's get into main topic number 1, shall we? And our first main topic gets submitted to us by Sean Bradley, who writes, "Hey, John, massive watcher of your show. Thank you so much, Sean. With last week's announcement that Death on the Nile would be pushed back to 2022, as well as the recent controversy surrounding Armie Hammer, do you think that gives Kenneth Branagh and Disney enough time to pull a Kevin Spacey and reshoot his scenes with another actor? Thanks, and keep the streams going." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, look, it is a very, very interesting scenario right now that Disney, through no fault of their own, finds themselves in with regards to Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer, of course, has had a lot of, how do we put this? What's the right way for us to say this? Drama? Some drama going on around him? Now, look, I am not like cannibalism, whatever. I am not into the TMZ garbage. I am not here to talk about the drama that's going on with Armie Hammer off camera. But we will, I think it is interesting and important to talk about what kind of effect can we see on a movie. And of course, one of the big movies that Disney has coming out that was connected with Fox is Death on the Nile, the follow-up to Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express. And now that thing's already done. It's shot. They just recently moved it to February of 2022. So they've got a little bit of room now. The question has become, what do they do with this movie now that it stars Armie Hammer, which, although he is not billed as the distinct lead actor of the film, some insiders who have seen the movie kind of say, yeah, Armie Hammer's kind of the lead in the movie. I mean, obviously, Detective Pierrot, I never know how to say the detective's name, Detective Pierrot. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. He's kind of the main character, but other than that, it's Armie Hammer. And Armie Hammer has this wild controversy surrounding him right now. So what does the movie do? What do you do with this as the movie? Now, again, I'm not here to go into any of the controversy about Armie Hammer. We're strictly here to talk about what does the movie now do with Death on the Nile. This is a pretty big deal for the cinema. Now, look, I'll say this. Regarding the controversy surrounding, the only thing I will say personally is this. I wasn't there. I have not seen, I do not know Armie Hammer. I've met Armie Hammer a number of times, yes. But I don't know Armie Hammer. I don't know the situation intimately. I was not there for any of the things that did or did not allegedly happen. So I really have no opinion on that part of it. All I will say is that I have met Armie Hammer. And on the occasions that I have met Armie Hammer, he has always been very nice to me, very pleasant, very personable, very, very nice guy. Although, now that I'm looking at this picture, why does it look like he's looking at me like I'm delicious? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading it. Doesn't it though? Doesn't it look like he's looking at me like maybe I'm a little bit delicious? I don't know. I've never thought about that before, but there you go. Anyway, all that is simply to say that I have met Armie a couple of times, and he has always been super nice. Just a super nice guy. So I don't know anything. But let's talk about, what does Death on the Nile now do? What are the options that are kind of currently available to them about what they can and cannot do? Now, the one thing that Sean brings up in the email, understandably, is, do they pull a Kevin Spacey? Remember for that one Mark Wahlberg film, they went back, reshot all of these scenes that Kevin Spacey was in, and replaced him with the great Canadian kid Christopher Plummer, who just recently passed away. They replaced him with that. Is that something that maybe they could or should do? Well, the answer to that is probably not. This comes to us from Variety, and they were writing the following. It does not take a Pierrot, again, I'm probably not even pronouncing that right. It does not even take a Pierrot-level detective to see the public relations nightmare Disney is faced with. And again, this is through no fault of Disney's. It's not like there was this controversy out there and they decided to make the movie with them anyway. The movie was made, and now they've inherited this problem. What do? It does not take a Pierrot-level detective to see the public relations nightmare Disney is faced with. Numerous rival studio executives and agents told Variety. Having pushed the film from a planned release date in September, its sixth date change, to the first quarter of 2022, that's going to be in February, the media giant has a few months to watch the Hammer scandal unfold and formulate a plan, crafting a strategy, one that respects silence breakers and survivors, protects Hammer's co-stars like Gal Gadot and Letitia Wright, and avoids unsavory mentions of cannibalism fetishes and criminal sexual assault allegations for a brand that's synonymous with family, presents a dizzying array of challenges. It absolutely does. One source familiar, this is where we get into the question about, do they just replace him with another actor? One source familiar with an early cut of Death on the Nile said Hammer's role is significant to the point of being the film's male lead. The studio is not currently considering reshooting or recasting his role. Another insider with knowledge of the project said reshoots, after all, could cost tens of millions of dollars and would be nearly impossible to pull off given the packed schedules of the ensemble. And that's probably even the more important part. When you look at a project like Death on the Nile, it is a big, long list of very successful people, both in front of and behind the camera. If you want to reshoot, all the scenes, and there are a number of them, if you want to reshoot all the scenes with Armie Hammer, that means you're going to have to also get a lot of the cast back. Well, guess what? Their schedules are booked. It's kind of part of the problem that Chaos Walking had. One of the reasons why Chaos Walking was delayed so long was that they knew they had to do a lot of reshoots, but both Tom and Daisy Ridley, they had packed schedules and they couldn't just come back to do reshoots for Chaos Walking. They had to wait a long time until they had availabilities in their schedules to come back and do that. Disney doesn't have that option right now. Not to mention the cost of it. We're literally costing in the tens and tens, maybe more, tens of millions of dollars in order to do that. And that's probably something they just don't want to do. So what does Disney do with this? Well, the way I see it, they've got three options. And I don't know what you guys think about this, but I think they've got three options. Option number one, which is probably not terribly unlikely. They've pushed it to February of 2022, right? That's a long ways off. That is a long ways. Because what are we now? March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. That's 11 months away. John, did you really just have to count that on your fingers? Apparently I did. Shut up. Anyway, so the thing's 11 months away. So one of the options that they have available to them at the moment is just let it go away. Let it die out. Adopt the whole Ezra Miller thing. Ezra Miller's just caught on film choking a woman. Everybody will forget about it in a little while. No one's going to be talking about it. Let's just be quiet about it and let it disappear. And lo and behold, it disappeared. And so maybe their philosophy might be, let's do what Warner Brothers did. Let's just let this sit for almost a year. And maybe nobody will be talking about it anymore. I don't know. Now, the problem, of course, is the stuff that Armie Hammer is in the middle of, the controversy he's in the middle of, is a little bit more salacious. Right? It's a little bit more salacious. And I don't think it's stuff that people are just going to let go of relatively quickly. You know what I'm saying? May not let go relatively. So, but that is an option to them. Wait a year and let's see if that just goes away. Then we can release the movie. That's an option. Option number 2 is just pull the plug on the movie. Just pull the plug on the movie. Now, of course, this is the most unlikely of scenarios. Again, because this is something that hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested into. Just pulling the plug on the movie is probably not a viable option that is even remotely being considered. I've seen a lot of people online say they should just cancel the movie. There's no win. It's a no-win situation for them. They should just pull the plug. Yeah, that's unlikely. Because even if all you get back, you invest hundreds of millions of dollars, even if all you get back is $1 million, that's still $1 million. They can't just scoff at that. Not to mention, they'll probably have the attitude of, why would we pull the plug on the entire movie when there are literally hundreds of people who have worked on this movie, and we shouldn't just pull the plug on it because of the actions, the alleged actions of just one of them. Understandable. So that's why I don't think that's really going to be one on the table. The third option that I personally think is probably the most likely scenario to have happen. The third option is this. They avoid the spectacle of a press tour, of a big theatrical release, of a premiere. They avoid all that and end up taking it directly to Hulu. Not Disney Plus, but taking it directly to Hulu. This, I probably think, is the most likely scenario. Now, again, let me be clear. I have no insider information here. I am in no way, shape, or form claiming that I have been informed by people at Disney that this, no, not at all. This is just me speculating. But out of the various options on the table, wait for it to go away, which is something that maybe they hope happens, pull the plug altogether, or eventually just put it right to Hulu so you can just put it out, get some benefit from it, and avoid the circus of everybody just wanting, because look, we all know what'll happen. Right? We all know what'll happen. Letitia Wright is going to sit down in a press conference and everybody's going to ask, did Armie Hammer ever take a nibble of your finger? Excuse me? So when you were alone with Armie Hammer and he was eating a plate of spaghetti, did he say, I bet this tastes like you? I mean, but honestly, that's all that's going to happen. So they probably can't do any press for it. So that's why I'm thinking maybe they just put the whole thing out on Hulu. I don't know. Maybe you guys see a fourth option. Question is, what do you think about this? I mean, this is a predicament that Disney finds themselves in through no fault of their own. How do you think they should approach it? How do you think they're going to approach it? Which one of the 3 options that I presented do you think are most likely? Or can you see a 4th or 5th option? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And this is our third topic. It is our second main topic, though. Let's move on to main topic number 2, shall we? And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Minari, who writes, Hi, I saw that not too long ago it was announced that both Mortal Kombat and Venom have been pushed back about a week. What are your thoughts on this? I don't think it should affect the movies so much, but we'll have to wait a tiny bit more now. This news comes out just before the release of Godzilla vs. Kong tomorrow, which is expected to deliver the biggest domestic box office debut for a major studio movie during this span, of course, being the COVID pandemic era. And yeah, listen, I'll tell you what, I am so excited about Godzilla vs. Kong. I am going to go see it today. Today. When I'm done the show today, I'll go down, sit down with my beautiful wife, have a little bit of lunch, and then I'm hopping in the car with my brother-in-law, Ray, Ann's brother, Ray, who does the graphics for the show here. We're going to drive over to the movie theater. We're going to meet up with Kimberly Curran, who, of course, co-hosts our companion videos most of the time. We're going to go meet up with Kimberly, and we're going to go in, and we're going to sit down, and we are going to behold the greatness of Godzilla vs. Kong. Cannot wait. I'm so excited for this. I couldn't have cared less about this movie before that trailer came out. But man, that trailer came out, and you guys know I've been all about Godzilla vs. Kong since, and I cannot wait to see that today. However, all that being said, we've got these other movies coming, right? We got Venom, we've got Mortal Kombat, and yes, both Venom 2 and Mortal Kombat have been moved again. However, they've also both only been moved by a week. Each of them have only moved by 1 week. Now, the question becomes, why did they move? Why did they move these movies? Well, the answer is different for each one of them. Let's start off by first talking about Venom. And by the way, the Comedic Genius sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Comedic Genius. Appreciate that, man. All right, let's look at Venom first. And Venom, it's actually pretty straightforward. It's pretty obvious why Venom made this 1 week move. So the reason Venom moved is really simply this. So they moved from September 17th to September 24th. This comes to us from Variety, okay? Just 1 week, so why make that move? It's actually really simple, and we actually talked about the possibility of this before, and it looks like it's what they're doing. The sequel, which stars Tom Hardy, was most recently pushed to September from June 25th due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 1 week delay of Venom 2 means that the movie will no longer premiere on the same day as the murder mystery Death on the Nile, which we were just talking about, and Death on the Nile has now been moved to 2020, and the animated children's film Boss Baby. This is more significant. Other films opening on September 24th, which is now when it will be opening, is Dear Evan Hansen and the Sopranos prequel film, The Many Saints of Newark. Here's what I think it all comes down to. They looked at it, and I think it was obvious. I think with families and whatever, our bigger competition for our demographic was going to be a Boss Baby film rather than Many Saints of Newark. We just think we will have more of the target demographic to ourselves if we move away from Boss Baby and move to the Many Saints of Newark. We just think that'll be a more friendly weekend for us. Again, there doesn't really seem to be much else. It's not coming out till September. They decided to move it by 1 month, or 1 week, I should say. So that seems pretty straightforward. No big deal. The more interesting one, though, the more interesting thing here, and I just decided to do something. Give me a second. The more interesting one here, though, is, of course, because Venom isn't where March, April, May, June, July, August. That's still 6 months away. So no big deal, right? No big deal. The bigger question, though, and the more interesting question to me is Mortal Kombat. So with Mortal Kombat, it could be seen as a little bit more confusing. Why would they move Mortal Kombat? Well, there is an official sort of explanation. And by the way, Black Bono Lala sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you so much, Black Bono. Appreciate that, man. There is kind of a more official sounding reason. And then there could be more of a conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat reason. And we'll talk about both of those right now. Let's look at what is probably the more logical reason about why this late in the game, because this movie opens in less than a month. It opens in less than a month. You know, Venom 2 is like 6 months off. Okay, it moves 1 week, no big deal. This one is opening up imminently. I mean, it's coming out really soon. Why did it make a move? All right, let's look at this. And by the way, Dwayne Jackson sends in a super chat badge as well. Thank you, Dwayne. So let's go over and look at this for a second. So this is what they have to say here. Where was the, let's bring it up here in our side. The folks over at Variety wrote the following. The postponement comes the day before Warner Brothers plans to release another tentpole, Godzilla vs. Kong, Film exhibitors have been optimistic about the arrival of the big budget Clash of the Titans, which has already done notable business overseas. Godzilla vs. Kong has made 121 million it's closer to 122, but whatever, has made 122 million at the international box office to date. It's done especially well in China, generating $70 million in opening weekend by pushing Mortal Kombat. Now here's where they get into it. By pushing Mortal Kombat, the studio hopes to space out the potential blockbusters in an effort to avoid cannibalizing ticket sales. So, the official reason being given here, at least through, Variety, is that, you know what? We think Godzilla vs. Kong is going to do better than any of us thought. What was a pipe dream of maybe making 30 million opening weekend could actually happen. It could make 30. Hell, it could make 40 million opening weekend domestically. And if you don't think that's much, remember, Godzilla King of the Monsters, without a pandemic and without limited capacity theaters, made in the 40s on its opening weekend. If Godzilla vs. Kong could get close to that during a pandemic with limited theaters, that's a huge win. So the official line right now is that, we want to give a little bit more breathing room to Godzilla vs. Kong to not cannibalize box office. Okay, that sounds rational. That sounds fair. The one little thing about that, though, is this. I mean, it was already opening, even when theaters are fully open. One big movie opening a couple of weeks after another big movie is usually pretty safe. But whatever, that could be the official reason. I, however, want to propose that there might be another reason. That there is another reason why Warner Brothers has decided to budge and nudge Mortal Kombat just 1 week. And it's going to sound like a tinfoil hat one. And I'm not the one who came up with this. I heard other crazy tinfoil hat people saying this, and I thought, you know what? That's not completely crazy. Because let's face it, this has something to do with Zack Snyder's Justice League, all right? Follow me here. From the really hardest core of the hardcore, we hear some ridiculous things come out of that camp. Like, the only reason there's all this news about Warner Brothers films is Warner Brothers is trying to make everybody forget about the restore of the Justice League. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So that's not it at all. But I did hear some of those folks saying this other thing about, and follow me here, that the reason Warner Brothers has moved Mortal Kombat 1 week, and I thought just another crazy thing, but then I thought about it, it's like, you know what, that's not that crazy, is because of this. If Mortal Kombat opened on its original date of April 16th, okay? If it opened on the day it was originally going to come out on April 16th, then that would be within the 1 month window of March 18th of when Zack Snyder's Justice League came out. So what, you might be asking yourself? Well, you can sign up for HBO Max and you get it for a month. And then if you want, you can cancel, but you've already paid for the month. If, and I know this sounds crazy, believe me, I know this sounds very conspiracy theory-ish, but I think they may have a point here. If Mortal Kombat did indeed open on April 16th, then that would be within that 1 month window of when some people signed up for Justice League, and they would be getting in 1 month, for just 1 month of subscription fees, they would have been getting Justice League, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Mortal Kombat, and they would have been able to watch them all for just 1 month subscription. For just 1 month subscription. By pushing Mortal Kombat 1 week to April 23rd, that pushes Mortal Kombat outside of that 1 month window that some people who may have signed up for HBO Max just to watch Justice League, it pushes it outside of that window. Which means if you are one of the few people out there who signed up for HBO Max just to watch Justice League, if you want to watch Mortal Kombat now, you got to at least renew for one more month. You've got to at least renew for one more month. That little date change from April 16th to April 23rd may seem inconsequential as a tiny little 1 week move, but it could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not a million, I don't know, but it equals direct money. Now, look, I am not a massive conspiracy theorist, okay? You guys know I am not a massive conspiracy theorist. And so it probably is just as they said. Oh, they wanted to move it a little bit further away from Godzilla versus Kong. And you know what? That makes sense too. That makes sense too. There is truth to that. That Godzilla versus Kong is looking like it's going to be bigger in theaters than maybe anticipated. It could make 30, hell, maybe even could make $40 million opening weekend and be a very crowd-pleasing kind of movie. So why don't you give it a little bit more room to breathe before putting out Mortal Kombat? Makes sense. Totally agree. It makes sense. However, you can't convince me that a part of the decision-making process here amongst the higher boardrooms of Warner Media, there wasn't at least some discussion about, we pushed this just 1 week. Those people who just signed up to watch Justice League, if they want to watch Mortal Kombat, they got to at least subscribe for one more month. They at least got. Now, is that a big number or a tiny insignificant number? I don't know. And it's whatever. But I just think that this theory coming out there is not one of the more insane ones. I think there might be something to that. And it makes sense. Why give away 3 premium movies for 1 month of subscription when you could get 2 months of subscription out of it? I don't know. Kind of makes sense. Question is, guys, what do you think about that? Do you think, now I think, again, the move of Venom 2 makes sense. It's already 6 months off. They just moved by a week because they just thought one weekend would be a little bit more friendly than another weekend. Makes sense. The Mortal Kombat one could be a little bit more interesting. Is it just to give Godzilla versus Kong a little more breathing room, or is it also to get people to sign up for another month of HBO Max? Or is there another option? Is there another option? So the question is, guys, what do you think about this? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all of that down and out of the way, we are now going to move on and start taking your live comments and questions that you guys sent in. Once again, to send in a live comment or question, all you have to do is simply use the tip link that's down in the description of this video. If you just want to support the channel, that's a great way to do it as well. But if you also want to send in a question, simply use the tip link in the description or enter it in manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Again, you'll be getting your comment or question that you attach to it on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting the show at the same time. And again, all of us involved with the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you guys very, very much for your support. All right, guys, let's not waste any time as I take a drink. Let's jump over and start taking those live questions, shall we? And we're going to get things started here with Teddy D, who writes, "Hey, John, I saw some tweets that Pixar employee..." I was just reading about this. I almost made this a topic on today's show, actually. Almost did. Saw some tweets that Pixar employees are upset over the Soul and Luca moves to Disney+. I understand the "we're not even good enough for an upcharge" sentiment. Any thoughts from a staff perspective? Are the staff bonuses based on box office totals or ratings? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, this is actually, let me just bring up my history here. Never show your internet browsing history. So I'm not going to show you my history, but let me just find this. Hold a second. Clickety click. Here. Okay. I was just looking at this morning, actually. So, yeah, there is a story going around about this. Now, where this all comes from is that a guy who used to be like one of the senior editors over at the Hollywood Reporter was talking to somebody that they knew at Pixar. And the guy's name is Matthew Belloni. And he writes this: "I just talked to a Pixar friend who says that Luca and Soul moves to Disney Plus have been demoralizing for employees. Forget theaters, we're not even good enough for an upcharge." And that's interesting. That's interesting. First of all, in the question of should employees feel that way? And by the way, let's point out, Matthew, I have no reason to believe Matthew isn't telling the truth. But Matthew just talked to one person. And do these sentiments represent 50% of Pixar's employees? Or does it represent 4 or 5 people at Pixar out of the hundreds and thousands of people who work for Pixar. It's probably a smaller number, but whatever. It is what it is. Take it as you will. So there is all that. Now, the interesting thing here is that, no, generally speaking, the general employees of a company, their bonuses are not directly attached to the box office results of a particular movie. What does happen a lot is that an employee of a larger company like a Pixar or Disney or whatever, an employee's bonus can be tied to the overall performance of the company. The overall performance of a company. When Anne was working at Amazon, she was in charge of getting all Amazon's, because I don't know if you knew this, Amazon now has actual brick and mortar physical grocery stores. And Anne's main job when she was at Amazon was overseeing and getting those stores opened and getting those stores launched. But as an employee of Amazon, now I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs of Amazon. Anne worked there, I didn't. But just generally speaking, in a corporate environment, Anne's bonuses weren't really going to be tied to how did the stores do. Her bonuses as an employee of Amazon were probably tied to how did Amazon do this year, right? So I don't think that has anything to do with it. So it's probably more just a pride thing, like our work should have been on the big screen. And if not on the big screen, then isn't it at least worth an upcharge to people? You're just giving it away for free. I mean, to those Pixar employees, and there's probably just a small number of them, to those Pixar employees, I would probably say it's not your place to have an opinion about that. You make content, you get paid to make the content, and Disney's going to leverage that content. Any studio is going to leverage that content in the way they think is going to most benefit the company. And at the end of the day, if it does benefit the company better one way, you will enjoy the fruits of that because, again, most bonuses are based on the company's overall performance rather than individual projects. Normally, at any rate. So that would be my take. Sorry I took so much time on that, but it was a very interesting thing. I almost made it one of the topics on the show here today. So I just thought maybe we should touch on that. Okay, let's move on here. That was Teddy D. Next up, we got BK Dan who writes, John, just wanted to say thank you for setting me straight on movie info sites to go to. That's what this is for that, and to buy you another Diet Pepsi on me. Enjoy. Well, thank you, BK Dan. Listen, it is so easy to be tricked and misled and to get, things wondering when sites like We Got This Covered or Cosmic Book Movie News are just putting out BS after BS after BS after BS. I'm not disparaging their opinions and their takes on stories. I'm saying these scoops that they break are 99% of the time they're BS. And so everybody gets talking about them, misled. That's why I always tell people, look, if you see a rumor or something like that going around, best thing to do, go to any one of the big outlets. Go to Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline, Entertainment Weekly, hell, The Wrap, Coming Soon, sites like that. If it's not reported there, then there probably isn't real information yet. That's not always the case. It's not like some little bumfuck nobodies like me every once in a while do come up with something. Sure, yes, not always the case. But generally speaking, if you're not seeing it being reported on the legitimate sites that have legitimate policies and standards and stuff like that, then put it at least to the back of your mind. Don't worry about it. And if it is true, then eventually those major sites will talk about it, and then Otherwise, you get to just avoid the confusion. So don't worry about that, BK, because it's a really confusing landscape out there. And don't worry about it. But anyway, thanks for writing that in, man. I appreciate that. Next up, an anonymous viewer writes, Hey, John, I want to play a game. Name that good Canadian Kittle. Kittle? Kid, space. I was killed saving Private Ryan. I chased a notable home run record. And I was a prison guard for death row inmate. Who am I? Okay, well, all right. I'm not quite sure what the connection is for chasing a notable home run record. But the one good Canadian kid that I know who is in Saving Private Ryan was Barry Pepper, who also has the distinction of being the star of one of the worst films in the history of cinema, Battlefield Earth. And of course, he was one of the prison guards along with Tom Hanks in The Green Mile. I'm not quite sure what. So Barry Pepper was in both of those. I'm not quite sure what the notable home run record was. The notable home run record. Was that Maris? Was that, I don't know. Was Barry Pepper in Maris? Now I can't remember. Do you guys remember? So anyway, I'm thinking it's okay. So Chris is saying in the live chat it was Roger Maris movie. Okay, no, I don't think it was 42. No, he wasn't chasing a home run record in 42. You're confusing him with the Black Panther. But anyway, so my guess, I will stick with Barry Pepper. That's who I will stick with. Again, because he's the only Canadian dude I knew who was in that movie. All right, Bo Jax writes, "Hey, John, sorry if this has been asked, but what are your thoughts on San Diego Comic-Con's special edition being on Thanksgiving weekend? Good idea? Do you think it will sell out? And also, do you plan on attending? Thanks." All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Bojax. Yeah, this is interesting. It's funny, Rob and I were talking about this off camera yesterday. Me and Rob were talking about this. So we've known for a little bit now that San Diego Comic-Con, the biggest convention in the world for geek culture, is going to do a virtual Comic-Con in the summer, but then they're going to do a live in-person event in November, which is interesting. But it's apparently now come out that the weekend that it's going to happen on is American Thanksgiving. Now, you have to forgive me because I am Canadian, so I'll be honest with you, I don't even know when American Thanksgiving is. Like, to me, Thanksgiving's in October, so I don't even know when American Thanksgiving is, to be honest with you. I am assuming it's sometime in November. That being said, and by the way, Sneaker Bros podcast sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Sneaker Bros. Appreciate that, man. So it's coming out, whatever. So I just thought, well, whatever, who cares? It's a holiday weekend, people are free. But then Rob raised a couple of good points with me about why some people are concerned about that. And the main thing has to do with the pandemic. Listen, a lot of people have not seen family in a long time, me included. I haven't got to see my mom and dad or my siblings since before the pandemic started. And so I can only imagine the same is true for a lot of people in the US as well. And a lot of people haven't seen family. Trying to travel during Thanksgiving is like the most expensive time of the year to try to travel. That's the most expensive time of year to travel. And this year, it's going to be bonkers. Since so many people, at least smart, responsible people, didn't do the big Thanksgiving family thing last November, it's going to be a big one this November. So it's going to be expensive. You're asking people to give up visiting their family that they probably haven't seen in a very, very long time. All that kind of stuff. And that's good points. My thought, though, is this. It's up to you to decide. No one's making you go to a Comic-Con event in November. Nobody's making me go to a Comic-Con event in November. And by the way, Monk's Den sends in a super chat badge saying thank you in the live chat there. Thank you, Monks. I appreciate that. Nobody's making you go to Comic-Con. And by the way, we're still going to get Comic-Con 2022 in its regular summer months. So if you can just hold out for 6 or 7 more months, then you'll get another one. But I think the main reason they probably did this is logistics. Because you can't just say any day that we're going to try to get, and let's face it, they're not going to get 150,000, 200,000 people to it like they do normally. Maybe in the summer of 2022 they will, but not in November. But even if it's like half that, 70,000 to 100,000 people, you can't just pick any weekend in a small city like San Diego and say, we're just going to have 100,000 people coming to town this week. There are massive logistical issues that have to be addressed. Like, when is the convention center even available? On top of that, when are the majority of hotels? Because that's always been a big problem with Comic-Con in San Diego is hotels. Not just in the city, but even in the surrounding areas. Like, make sure that there's no big things going on, that hotels are going to be booked up. And if it turns out, hey, guess what? There's no other events going on Thanksgiving, then maybe that's the time you got to do it, even if it's not ideal. So I understand I do. I understand why some people would be upset because it's going to be expensive to travel. You want to see your family instead. I get it. I also understand it from Comic-Con's point of view. You want to have an event. There's limited amounts of options open to you. There's a logistical stuff you guys saying. If Thanksgiving weekend is the weekend you can get all the hotels and the convention center that you need, then that's the time you do it. And at the end of the day, no one's making you go to Comic-Con. No one's making me go to Comic-Con. And if I can't go, and I am going to go, I'm going to Comic-Con. As a matter of fact, now that Ann and I moved to Riverside, like we only lived about 2.5 hours from San Diego before. Now that we live in Riverside, we only live like an hour and a half from San Diego. Literally, I hop in the car right now. What is it? It's like 10:45. I'll be there by like 12:15. I'll be there by lunch. I can hop in my car right now, be in San Diego. So I'm going to go. But if I couldn't go, I only got to wait about 6 or 7 more months for the full-blown real Comic-Con again in summer of 2022. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of my take on that. And maybe there's points of view on that I'm not considering. But yeah, that's just kind of how I see it right now. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Bojax. Appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Connor writes, 1 of 2. Kevin Feige talks about how a good storyteller is a good storyteller. I love that the Obi-Wan series cast Benny Safdie. There's no Y in that, by the way. He played Nick, the autistic brother in Good Times. He was also the director of Good Times with his brother. He was really good in it, and so was Batman. Of course, that's Robert Pattinson. He also directed himself. I don't see part 2. Okay, anyway, yes, a good storyteller is a good storyteller. Of course, he is not going to be telling the story in this one. Benny is not the director of this movie, obviously. So there's nothing, or of Obi-Wan. He's not the director of it, so there's that. But they are casting good people. I thought the cast list was really impressive, and I'm excited to see what they do. All right, next up. Dad Jokes writes, John, so I watched the Snyder Cut a second time and noticed something about Mara. Her freaking accent changed. I'm glad you said that because I thought so. But I never said anything because I wasn't sure. And I never saw anybody else say anything either about it. Her accent changed. Did Amber Heard reshoot voiceovers? Well, she did do a bunch of reshooting, yes. Her accent is more British in the Snyder Cut, while American in the original Justice League and the Aquaman movie. Why? I don't know. I mean, and what does an Atlantean... What does an Atlantean accent sound like? I don't know. But yeah, I thought it sounded a little bit different too. It didn't bother me. It didn't take me out of it. For whatever, Zach wanted the voice to be a little bit different. Zach did have her come in to shoot new stuff and to reshoot a couple things, including some voice stuff. So, but what was the purpose of that? I'm not really sure what the purpose of it was. And I did notice it, but it didn't bother me. It didn't distract me from it. I mean, again, should she just have like a straight sounding American accent when she's from a mythical land of Atlantis? Maybe she should have a little bit of an accent. Anyway, so it kind of worked for me. It kind of worked for me. Okay, next up. The Wakandan Forever writes, Mortal Kombat, I am pumped. Do you think we will get cameos from the cast of the original movie? What is your favorite character and fatality? P.S. I blow my nose with it, John. What else can you use Kleenex for? Shameless plug. Check out thewakandanshop.com. Will there be cameos by the original cast? I'm going to guess no. Now, I obviously, I don't know. I have no information on that. My guess is going to be no. The original Mortal Kombat movie is not like, those of us who have seen it, we know, but we are the minority, right? We are the minority. And I don't think it is big enough to have something like that. So could we possibly see a Christopher Lambert, who played Raiden before, walk around as, I don't know, as a fish taco salesman? Maybe. But I'm going to go out on a limb and probably guess no. My guess is that we will not see any cameos from the original cast. It's not impossible, though, and I'm not even going to say highly unlikely, but my guess, if I had to bet $2, I'm going to guess no, we will not see any cameos there. All right, next up. We've got Connor writes, I watched Prisoners for the first time. Denis Villeneuve, Hugh Jackman, Paul Dano, Jake Gyllenhaal. That movie is freaking awesome. Anyway, I watched Prisoners for the first time. It made me incredibly hyped to see Paul Dano as Riddler. He was super creepy and disturbed. Also, this is probably the best Hugh Jackman performance I've ever seen. It was on par with Berserker Logan's visceral rage. I don't even think his Logan stuff is in his top 3 or 4. I thought he was great in Logan. I don't even think those are his top 3 or 4. But Paul Dano, listen, if you want to appreciate Paul Dano, yes, he's brilliant in Prisoners. Absolutely. But if you really want to be impressed with Paul Dano, watch No Country for Old Men. The only reason more people don't talk about Paul Dano's performance in No Country for Old Men, which was just stupid good, is because the greatest actor of all time, Daniel Day-Lewis, happened to give the greatest performance of his career. Probably, I consider Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in There Will Be Blood the single greatest performance by a male lead actor in Hollywood history. Now, that's debatable, for sure. You can debate that. But I'm just saying, for me, it is the single greatest male lead performance in any movie ever. And that's what everybody talks about. Paul Dano, as great as he was in that movie, got totally overshadowed. But yes, I am very excited. I was very stoked when I saw that he was cast in the new Batman. In the new Batman film. Thank you, Warner Brothers. In the new Batman film. I was so stoked to see that he was cast in that. He is a terrific actor, and I cannot wait to see him in it. All right. Next up. Let's see. What did I say? Some people saying I think he meant There Will Be Blood. Oh, did I say No Country for Old Men? Sorry. There Will Be Blood. Why did I say No Country for Old Men? There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood. I don't know why I said No Country for Old Men. Anyway, next up, we got Chuck the Mystery writes, "Hey, John and Rob. Rob's not here today, unfortunately. I wrote in a few weeks ago to tell you I was on a Robert Redford rewatch binge, and you mentioned Sneakers. I know that's not considered like one of the classic Robert Redford ones, but yes, Sneakers. When I think of Robert Redford, that's my go-to movie, is Robert Redford and Sneakers. As being a favorite, such a great film. Now I'm on a Paul Newman binge. What are yours and Rob's favorite Newman film? That's easy. Cool Hand Luke. Cool Hand Luke all day, every day. Now, Newman and Redford, I mean, they go together like Siskel and Ebert. I mean, for sure. And they had another ones, whether you want to talk about, Butch Cassidy, you want to talk about, playing pool, you want to talk about making spaghetti sauce, whatever. But when I think of Paul Newman, race cars, you can think of a lot of things about Paul Newman, whether movies or all the other things he did outside of that. But when I think of Paul Newman, I always go, Cool Hand Luke. If you guys have not seen Cool Hand Luke, you've got to. If you only ever watch one Paul Newman movie, it's got to be Cool Hand Luke. So yeah, that for me. Yes, for Redford, it's Sneakers, a little unconventional, but for Newman, it is now and will always be Cool Hand Luke. Chuck. Anyway, nice binges you're on there, man. Chuck also writes, I have a Superman and Lois question for you and Rob. Episode 5, spoiler alert. When Superman crashes in on Leslie Lar and the newly resurrected Derek, before he flies out, Derek tells Leslie to protect the asset. Any thoughts on who or what the asset is? Thanks. I can only tell you that my initial thought when he said protect the asset was the device itself that he was just in. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something that powers the machine. My just thought was it's the machine. We'll have to wait a little while the show is on hiatus now until we find out what the answer to that question is. But my assumption right now, Chuck, which could be totally wrong, was that it's just the machine itself. Pardon me. All right. Nosferatu writes, who's the Dark Lord of Sith? It's been Palpatine all along. Who's the leader of the Separatists? It's been Palpatine all along. I like that one. Nicely said, Nosferatu. Dark Lord of Dank writes, regarding how everyone in Endgame has earpieces, I assume Doctor Strange did in fact hand them out to everyone after he was unsnapped. It's not crazy to think about when you consider the amount of time between Hulk snap and the portal showing up. I mean, I don't know. Did him and Wong just walk around with a big basket saying, you get an earpiece and you get a communications earpiece and you get a communications? I don't know. Seems like a little bit of a stretch, Dark Lord of Dank, but then again, we are talking about the MCU where a giant purple alien with a big golden glove with 6 magical gems that can destroy the world was at play here, so maybe it's not the most ridiculous thing at all when you think about it. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, If I was making the Flash movie, and hey, by this time next week I might be, with the rate that they go through directors, I would be seriously tempted right now to show him turning back time to erase the events of the Snyder Cut just to stick it to the toxic fans. Well, I mean, yes, but remember, the toxic fans are a minority. You'd also be hurting the majority of the ones who aren't toxic at all. So don't be willing to hurt the majority just to get at the minority. You know what I'm saying? But I see where you're coming from. And yes, at the rate they go through writers and directors, but it looks like Muschietti is the guy. It looks like they're ready to start shooting this movie soon, so maybe it'll actually start happening. All right, next up. The sock rights. So I decided to buy a SNES, nice, because the PS5s are more unattainable than gold right now. Dude, I would love a PS5. I would love a PS5. I cannot get one the F anywhere. I can't get one. I finally gave up like 2 weeks ago. I just gave up. Maybe sometime in 2023, I'll get a PS5. I got all jealous the other day because Rob mentioned that somebody sent him one. I'm like, F you. Yeah, I would really like to get one. Anyway, let's get back to that question. Because PS5s are more unattainable than gold right now. Here's the games I have. T2, nice. Star Fox, F-Zero, Super Mario, Madden 95, Street Fighter 2, Donkey Kong Country 2. Also, they made a cool world game. I guess, why not? Hey, that sounds great. You know what? I know something, honestly? So I've got a PS4 Pro out at my TV. We also have a Nintendo Switch by our TV. I'm not going to lie to you. At least 3 times as much we use the Nintendo Switch. Now, for Anne, it's because she still plays Animal Crossing like crazy. But me, it's been a mixture of a lot of games, including Hades, which Hades is great. So Hades, I still like playing Mario Kart. That's right, Mario Kart 8. I still like playing Mario Kart 8. There's a pretty fun Luigi's Haunted Mansion game in there. But yeah, I think we actually have our Nintendo Switch up there more times than not than we have the PS4. Now that I think about it. But I want a PS5. Anyway, next up. Orange Hand writes, hey, John, you may have addressed this already in the Snyder Cut spoiler video, but I found it weird how the mother boxes look like ghoulish figures when Cyborg was pulling them apart. Are they evil? Just how sentient are those things anyway? Well, the Snyder Cut, I mean, it all depends on your interpretation. To me, the Snyder Cut really did seem there was a definitive sentience to the mother boxes. I mean, they even made the suggestion in the movie that the reason they stayed dormant was because they were afraid of Superman. And they wanted to wait until Superman was dead. So, I mean, that's so I would say, yeah, I think you're probably your take on that Orange Hand is probably right. Again, I don't know for sure, but I think you're right. All right. Ethan, oh boy, this is going to kill me because I'm terrible with names. Ethan Prestonokowitz writes, Ann Sarnoff, she's the head of Warner Media Studios, said that Warner Brothers is letting each creator develop their own versions of DC characters' multiverse. So why didn't they let Zack put Jon Stewart in? Zack said Warner Brothers wanted to make their own Green Lantern announcement, but if it's non-canon, who cares what's in there? Well, I mean, first of all, I don't know if that's true. If that's in context. But if you're Warner Brothers, and remember, they've got a Green Lantern, a big Green Lantern thing they're doing, that they're putting a lot of money and resources into. You don't want to create any distraction. You don't want to create any confusion with a new project you have coming. So I get it. I mean, but again, until we see what the Green Lantern thing is, and unless we specifically know what it was Zack was thinking about doing, then we really won't know if it would have been incredibly, create an incredible conflict, or whether it would have been very minor. But the reality is we don't know enough information to really have an opinion about it. But I will just say, in principle, if you're getting ready to launch this new idea of Green Lantern, then you probably don't want people to then get exposed to a Green Lantern notion in what Warner Brothers was considering a throwaway kind of project. It kind of makes sense, But I don't know, maybe once we see Green Lantern, maybe we'll think, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But it's hard to have a perspective on that right now when we don't have all the information. At least that's how I kind of see it. All right, next up. Suthius writes, hey guys, tech company C-Seed I've seen this. Tech company C-Seed Entertainment Systems has unveiled a 165-inch TV called the M1. It is made up of 5 seamless panels that fold up together, then into the floor. Coolest shit I've seen when it comes to hidden TV technology. Look it up. I have seen this thing. So this thing, the M1, not to be confused with the Apple M1 chips. So there's this box, right? There's like a box. Let me go to this camera. So you got like a box, right? And this box has like 5 slats in it. And as this thing comes up onto the floor, then these 5 individual panels of the TV come up, and then when they're clear of the slats, they unfold seamlessly. Like, it's not like a Samsung folding phone where you can still see the crease. It unfolds seamlessly into this giant ass 165-inch television. It looks awesome. And do not mistake, I was drooling. I'm drooling now just thinking about it. I want that shit in my living room. I could not find a price on it though. I'm going to guess that it's more than I'm going to guess it's more than $600. I'm going to go out on a ledge and guess it's more than $600. My guess is, Ann and I were looking at it and we were trying to take guesses at how much this thing would cost. And let me see if, what is the name of it again? C-Seed Entertainment M1. Okay, I'll second. M1 TV, 165 inch. Let me see if I can find this thing on here to show it to you guys. I'm not sure I can. Oh my God. I did just see the price for it. Okay, so first of all, here's the TV. Here's a quick look at the TV. Look at the size of this thing. Look at the woman standing by it. Look at now. So here's the thing. It kind of looks like its own little mother box, right? So what happens is it folds up like an accordion. I think there might be. It folds up like an accordion. And let me just. Yeah. So the thing comes out of the ground, right? Comes out of the ground. And then these things, it just pulls apart like that and creates this absolutely seamless television. Oh my God, I want this. I want this so bad. Here's the problem though. Big problem. I just found, while I couldn't find a price on it yesterday, I just saw a Gizmodo put up an article for it. So Ann and I were trying to guess how much is this TV. I was guessing $12,000. Do any of you guys want to put in a guess? Well, DF just ruined the surprise for everybody, but yeah, it's $400,000. I thought it'd be like between $12,000 and $20,000. This TV is $400,000. I don't need it that bad. I don't need it that bad. I mean, I think to see entertainment, I think I speak for all of us when I say, go fuck yourselves. I'm nearly $500,000 for this TV. But come on, price aside, who wouldn't enjoy having that? I know I would enjoy having that very, very much. Not going to happen, but yeah, it is absolutely a thing of beauty. Dominic Ray is saying in the live chat, is it 720p? I'm going to probably guess it's probably got a good 8K on it, but we'll see. Dear heavens. Dear heavens. Yeah, I would love to have that though. All right, next up. Ashley M writes, hey John, in an effort to cut out sugar, I bought Zevia. Nice. Sponsor him, you sons of bitches. I was surprised to find the cola is clear. Yep, it's totally clear. So are all their flavors. Their flavors are all clear. They have no color to them. Not as good as Coke Zero in my opinion, but I think I'll try one of Zevia's other flavors like ginger ale. Yeah, listen, it is, you can't see it in this cup, but it is clear. It's clear liquid you see there. By the way, this one's empty. I should pull out another. You know what? Special thanks. Can you see it? No, you can't see it. It's over here. Special thanks to my brother-in-law, Ray, who he was seeing that I was often having to get up and go and get a new can of Zevia. And what my brother-in-law, Ray, did, you can't see it right now. Maybe I'll show it to you later. Follow me on Instagram, guys, by the way. Follow me on Instagram. You can see my Instagram handle right there, at John Campea. Follow me on Instagram. I've been doing these little pictures, putting up of things in my office, just random things in my office. I will make this the next one. But my brother-in-law, Ray, bought me this tiny little 6-can fridge. This tiny little fridge that holds 6 cans, and it sits right here on my desk. So now I can just go over, open the desk, open it up, and look, pull out a delightfully chilled and cold glass of Zevia, the cheapest sons of bitches in the world because they won't sponsor me, even though I am responsible for more sales of Zevia on the globe than anything they do. Zevia, sponsor me, you sons of bitches. Anyway, I do really like this. And I originally, I mean, you guys have heard me tell the story, but I originally got into Zevia because I was drinking far too much diet soda. Because if I don't drink soda, then I snack. And so I drink soda to kind of distract me from snacking. But then I found out how much bad stuff is in the artificial flavors in diet soda. So I got turned on to Zevia instead with no artificial flavors, or no artificial sweetener. Listen to me, I sound like a fucking commercial. Anyway, and I got into it. But yes, all their flavors actually taste pretty good. They have their Dr. Pepper flavor, they have their ginger ale flavor, they have other stuff, but I personally just really like the good, straightforward cola. That's me. All right, Zevia, sponsor me, you sons of bitches. Anyway, next up, Casey McNatt writes, "Hey, John, how are you today? I am great today, Casey. Thank you. I just reserved my tickets for Godzilla vs. Kong. Bravo, sir. Wednesday night, and let me just say that the theater was booked for a Wednesday afternoon. It was almost sold out. Looks like people are ready to actually go back to the movies. It's exciting. Yeah, I remember when I was going to buy my my tickets for Godzilla vs. Kong, I was like, holy crap, all these things are sold out. They're all sold out. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised because, look, I made this analogy before, and I really do believe it's true. A lot of people say, nobody's going to be ready to go back out. And I'm like, listen, if there are proper safety procedures and proper protocols, I think a lot of people who are smart and know how to take care of themselves will be excited about going out again. And some people would say, no, no, no. And I know me and Aaron would debate this a lot. But I said, look at restaurants. Because the moment they just opened up restaurants again here in LA not too long ago, at least out here where I live. And the moment restaurants opened back up, they were filled to what their limited capacity could be. They're absolutely filled. You know, Ann and I tried to go to this one restaurant just to eat out the outdoor patio. And we got there and there was going to be like a 2.5 hour wait. And it's like, nope. I have the patience of a puppy. I literally have the patience of a puppy. So I'm like, if it's anything more than a 15-minute wait, I'm like, see ya. I guess it's McDonald's for me tonight. But I say, when you look at that, I think you'll see when there are real movies hitting the theaters again, and they're open even at limited capacity, I think you're going to see that not everybody, I think you're going to see there's a lot of people excited about getting back out there, just going out and doing something that feels normal again. You know, you can eat food at home. You can make some KD. You can, throw some hot dogs in the microwave. You can get on Uber Eats, order something to be delivered to your house. But what did people want to do? The moment restaurants, they just wanted to get back out safely and do something that felt normal again. And so when I went online and started seeing that all these Godzilla vs. Kong screenings were selling out. Now, maybe where you live, they're not, but where I live here, they've been selling out. Seeing all these theaters selling out really wasn't a surprise. Selling out to their limited capacity. It really wasn't a surprise. So it's exciting. It's exciting. I've been to the movies twice in the last couple of weeks, and it just feels like going home again, man. I've just been loving it. Anyway, next up. Titans Go writes, Hey, John and Rob. Beast Boy can turn straight up into an animal. Yes, any animal, boom, pow. I have no idea what we're talking about here. Yup, he's kitty now. Oh, check out his kitty meow. The star, the fire, the live, the wire, the alien princess in her alien attire. I'm assuming this is a Teen Titans Go theme song, maybe. The energy blasters, the supersonic speed. Is she down with the Titans? Oh, yo, yes, indeed. Booyah, booyah. Don't let Ray Fisher hear you saying that. Got his cannon blasters, cyborg. Woo, baby, Mr. High-Tech Master. What? Mr. Metal Ball Disaster, Mr. Boom Boom Blaster. I have no idea what it is I just read, but I'm assuming it has something to do with the Teen Titans Go. So there you go. A little bit of poetry. A little bit of poetry for Teen Titans. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right, next up. Ashley M. writes, John, it's been a long time since I've seen Man of Steel or Batman vs. Superman, so I decided to rewatch them and then rewatch the Snyder Cut. Wow, Man of Steel is much better than I remembered. Everybody says that. I'm telling you. So many people I know, when I convince them to go and just give Man of Steel another shot, they almost always come back to me and say, that was a lot better than I remember. I'm telling you, it gets better every time you see it. Anyway, it's much better than I remember it. I see why you love it now. It's not a typical comic book movie, but it's a great story. It is. It's all that. It's great characters. Like what they do with Kal-El in it is fabulous. I love Pa and Ma Kent in it. Love them in it. It's a great story. Some of the best visceral action in any comic book movie ever. Give Man of Steel another shot. I'm telling you, it is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. That's just me. All right, Chris writes, 1 and 2. Hey, John, love all you do. Thank you so much, Chris. I know you aren't a big fan of top favorite lists. No, I'm not. But I'm curious, what are your top 5 favorite films of all time? So you start by saying, I know you don't like doing top lists. Can you give us a list? Anyway, that's 1 of 2. Mine are number 5, Lord of the Rings, fabulous, Return of the King. Number 4, The Dark Knight. Number 3, Seven Samurai. A little Kurosawa in there, never hurt anybody. Number 2, The Shawshank Redemption. And number 1, Star Wars, the original version. Well, I'm not going to do a list. What I will tell you is this. That I do have a top 10 favorite films of all time. I have a top 20 as well. And I never rank them. I will obviously say that my number 1 is, and I do count, some people say it's cheating, whatever, but I do count the original Star Wars trilogy as one thing. So, New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi, that is my number 1 of all time. In no other particular order, some of the other films that would inhabit the top 5 out of my top 10 list, because I don't like putting them in order. But the Lord of the Rings trilogy I count as one thing. Shawshank Redemption, so very similar to yours as well. That's in there. So yeah, those are a couple of the ones that I've got up in there. I think probably Lawrence of Arabia would be in my top 5 as well. And The Godfathers, which Godfathers 1, 2, and yes, I include 3. I count as sort of one thing there. So again, no particular order, and yeah, so there you go. So you share some of the ones that I have as well, Chris. You share some of the ones that I have as well. Okay, let's move on here. Next up, we've got I Hate Kettlebells. Writes, hey, John, my wife's got kettlebells. She uses them every morning with her workout. Hey, John, the only big techie company that has not entered the streaming wars is Microsoft. With rivals like Apple involved in the game, could we see them in the future buying an existing company or setting up a rival? I hope not. There's too many as it is. This is interesting because a couple of friends of mine and I had a discussion about that. Not a major discussion, but it was kind of a side topic that came up a while ago. It's like, could Microsoft get into this if Apple's getting into it? Our feeling was that probably not. Like, Apple, it's kind of the same reason, like Microsoft stopped making phones. The phone market is huge, but they just stopped making phones. They recently came out with that Duo that they made, but it had Android on it. Very interesting concept, but the software wasn't ready for it. Anyway, so they got out of phones. I think Microsoft, especially under their new leadership, they seem very, very, very laser focused on what their product is. They are getting a little bit back into hardware again, but really they are a software company, particularly a cloud company. I don't see them right now under their current leadership getting into entertainment. Apple, on the other hand, sees entertainment as a part of their entire ecosphere, right? Because they make the devices we consume all the content on. They make the Apple TV. They make even though I'm an Android guy, they make the number one individual selling phone in the world in the iPhone. I am an iPad guy. I have an iPad Pro. So they make the iPad. So they make all these devices that people consume content on. And by the way, they're getting into gaming too. Like Apple has very slowly over the past couple of years been getting into gaming. And there's even a lot of talk that the new Apple TV is going to have a very robust gaming ecosphere built right into it. Anyway, so the idea that they can expand that to include the content we consume on these devices, they build all these content consuming devices. So why not also get involved in making the content that people consume? So it's an interesting strategy, but I don't think, and who knows, they could announce something tomorrow. I don't think we're going to see Microsoft get into the game like that. At least not under the current leadership. But again, I don't know. I have no insider information, so it'll be interesting to watch, kettlebells. All right, next up, Ryan writes, "Hey John, what do you think of the fight Saturday night? Oh, the Ngannou fight against Stipe. Anyway, Francis is a scary dude, and Jones is up next. Who you got winning that one? Cheers from Newmarket, Ontario." I'm not so sure that Jones is next. I'm not so sure John Bones Jones is next. What do I think happens? I think Ngannou destroys John Bones Jones. Listen, the reality is this, and everybody pretends like it's not the case. John Bones Jones can walk around pretending like he retired he retired from the light heavyweight division as champion. He did on paper. Everybody knows John Bones Jones lost his last fight. Dominic Reyes beat John Jones. And what the judges were smoking that night, I don't know. It's one of those, maybe they had that mentality, well, to be the champ, you gotta convincingly clearly, he beat John Bones Jones. That being said, Francis Ngannou will rip off John Bones Jones's head. But I don't think he's going to get the next title shot. I think the next title shot is probably going to be Lewis. I think it's going to be Black Beast. I think he's going to get the next title shot. But here's the thing. Here's Francis Ngannou's big weakness. It's his cardio. Whereas in the second round of that fight, Stipe looked still completely fresh. Ngannou was already taking deep, heavy breaths and was sweating a lot. When you carry around that much muscle that Francis Ngannou has, your cardio takes a hit. That's a lot of muscle fiber that needs a lot of oxygen. And you could see in that fight, when he was finally ready to finish that fight, like even in the post-fight interview, he was still gasping for breath, sweating profusely, all that kind of stuff. If Stipe could have got that fight into the third round, I think Stipe beats him again. Stipe beat him the first time, I think, based on that same thing. I think he beats him again. But the thing is, Francis Ngannou has not just completely scary power. He has scary accuracy. Like he does not Anderson Silva kind of accuracy, but for a big lumbering heavyweight, his striking accuracy is pretty damn good. And when you combine that kind of power with that kind of accuracy, all it takes is one shot. Like him and Lewis Black Beast are very similar that way, right? All it takes is one shot. That's it. With Francis Ngannou and with Black Beast, all it takes is one shot. And it ends a fight. And yeah, I think Bones, like, listen, if John Bones Jones can take that fight into the third round and longer, John Bones Jones can beat Ngannou. So can a number of people. The trick is, can you get into the third round against him? And I'm not so sure, because against Dominic Reyes, against, a lot of guys, he's shown he can be hit. Bones can be hit. He's not impossible to hit. And if Ngannou lands one shot, that fight's over. It's over. Anyway, but if he can get into the later rounds, then he will. If he can get in the third round, then he easily gets it. He easily wins that fight. Anyway, let's move on here. But that whole card was great, by the way. By the way, how good did Sugar Shane O'Malley look? Sugar Shane looked amazing. Like, that dude is something special. I think we're going to be talking about him for a long time. Anyway, King Kong Megatron writes, "Hey, John, I hope you're well. I am well, thank you. I came across an article in Deadline about a Thundercats movie. We just talked about this on the show yesterday, about a Thundercats movie directed by Adam Wingard. The plan is for it to be a hybrid CGI film like He-Man. This could also be Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings type of fantasy. Your thoughts?" Again, I would recommend going back and watch the segment that we did on this yesterday. I'm a little bit discouraged that it's not going to be a live action film, to be honest with you. But I'm excited that Wingard is doing it. I'm excited to see his new movie, Godzilla vs. Kong. Don't forget, he's still got to do that face-off movie before he ever gets to Thundercats. So it's going to be interesting to see how but again, I would point you towards, go onto our channel, look in our videos section, and you'll see us talking about that in more detail. King Kong Megatron. All right, next up, Mike Lovin writes, "Hey, John, sorry to correct you, but you have insinuated multiple times that Falcon is a pilot. He is a pilot. He has a mechanical device that he flies. He is a pilot. He is definitively not a pilot. He is absolutely a pilot. Never was one. He told Cap himself that he was not a pilot in Winter Soldier. This is canon. He's just a dude who sometimes falls with style. Nope. He has a flying piece of machinery that he operates to fly. He is a pilot." So anyway, there's that. Next up, Scott Brown versus the World writes, "Scott Pilgrim is being re-released in Dolby theaters. My question is, why do you probably meant they, why do they make it so expensive for re-releases? For my family of 4, it would be $80 plus snacks. This seems counterintuitive. I'm not paying for a movie that I already own." Well, I mean, the whole thing about any theatrical re-release is about getting the real experience for the movie. Like, we can own these movies at home, and that's great, but they aren't the real theatrical experience. And that's what you're paying for, is the real theatrical experience. Now, for something like Scott Pilgrim, they're putting it in their Dolby AMC Prime cinemas. Those cinemas are more expensive. They make it that price because it's their premium viewing experience. But for something like this, you got to remember, for a movie theater to show Scott Pilgrim versus the World means that they can't put Godzilla versus Kong in it, or Mortal Kombat in it, or whatever, where they could be making a lot of money selling those tickets. So if they're going to put another movie on there, they can't downgrade the price. And they're not putting out Scott Pilgrim just in regular theaters. They're only putting it out as a special event in these prime Dolby cinemas with the dual laser projection system and all that kind of stuff. So let's put it this way. If you owned a van and you have like the most luxury van in the world, and you drive people across town in this van for $50 a seat. Well, yeah, if somebody else comes along and says, "Hey, can I want to book your van for my group." Okay, well, I could make $50 a seat if I don't take your booking. So if you want to book it, you and your passengers have to pay $50 a seat. I mean, that's what you would do. You wouldn't downgrade. But again, the Scott Pilgrim thing is a very special thing because my understanding is it's only supposed to be in Dolby cinemas, and it's a little more expensive to get these Dolby Cinema Prime tickets. And if they don't charge regular price, then they're losing money when they could be showing Mortal Kombat or Godzilla versus Kong instead. You know what I'm saying? So, or movies like that. So anyway, next up, Anonymous writes, "I don't know if you have ever watched, probably meant ever. I don't know if you have ever watched Rick and Morty, but if not, you should give it a try. It's as good as Harley Quinn animated series, if not better in my opinion." Yes, this makes me very unpopular amongst my friends. I watched the first season and a half of Rick and Morty. I was very late to the party on Rick and Morty, but after everybody raved about it so much, this is going back a couple of years ago, I finally sat down and watched like the first season of Rick and Morty, and then I watched like the first half of season 2, and then I tapped out. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I did not find it all that great that everybody else does. Now, again, everybody else loves it, so obviously there's something there. But, you know, it's all things are subjective. Everything hits us all in different ways, and Rick and Morty was one of those shows that For whatever reason, it works for the vast majority of people. It is a beloved show. And I tried to get into it. I tried to watch it, and it just didn't work for me. Didn't find it very funny. But again, all of us have things that everybody loves, but that we don't. We all have a couple of those things. For me, it's like Blade Runner and Rick and Morty. Yeah, so I did give it a shot, but unfortunately for me, it just didn't work for me, unfortunately. All right, next up. Diesel for Panthro writes, hey, John and co. Deadline reports that Adam Wingard, we were just talking about this, Adam Wingard of Godzilla vs. Kong will helm a Thundercats movie adaptation. I grew up on Thundercats, and needless to say, this has got me very excited. What are your thoughts on this, and are you a Thundercats fan? Again, we did put that out. We have a video up about it. Just look in our videos section for that. And yeah, Adam Wingard doing it, I'm very excited. Doing Thundercats, I'm very excited. The one thing I am disappointed to hear for now, although maybe once I see what they're doing, I could get excited about it, is that I have been dreaming of seeing a live action Thundercats movie, not an animated Thundercats movie. I want to see something. We've seen lots of animated Thundercats. I want to see a live action Thundercats, but going to give them the benefit of the doubt for now, and we'll see how that goes. Again, if you want some more in-depth thoughts about that, go check out our video that we did yesterday on that. All right, next up. Wakandan Forever writes, Thundercats. I am so pumped right now. One of my favorite cartoons of all time. Dreams do come true. I've wanted this for decades. Opening day, Wakanda will be there in front and center. Again, I am enthusiastic about it because it's Thundercats. I am enthusiastic about it because Adam Wingard's doing it. I'm going to have to see some trailers to get really excited, though, because, I mean, I'm anticipating it. I'm looking forward to it. But I can't get like super excited about it because it's not live action. Now, again, once we start seeing some trailers and I start seeing what he's got in mind, maybe that'll push me over the edge to get really super pumped for it, like the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer did. But until then, I'll just be in the comfortable seat of, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not yet super excited about it. Anyway, next up, Wakanda also writes, you can be a wino off the streets. You can be a lady of the evening. You can be, this is Dusty Rhodes. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, an astronaut, or an Indian chief, but there is one thing you can never be, and that's Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. What's the best wrestling nickname? I don't know. It actually might be Undertaker. Undertaker is such a great wrestling nickname. Undertaker is one of the best names when you match the physical presence of the guy with his persona with the right name. Undertaker might be the best one ever. So I'll go with Undertaker on that one. James Lock, although American Dream was great too. James Lockman writes, hey, John, there are 3 things that I'm looking forward to watching. Stowaway, that looks amazing. I was very, very excited about that trailer. The Nevers, which of course the trailer for that is out there right now. And The Bad Batch, which I have zero interest in, which dropped the second trailer today. What do you think of these products? And do you know when the second season of The Witcher will be out? I don't know. Right now, I don't know when the second season of The Witcher will be out. I think they've completed shooting it. That's all I know. Stowaway, that trailer, Toni Collette, that looks great. I was very excited about that trailer. Looks really interesting. Can't wait to see it. The Nevers looks really interesting too, the HBO Max series. So that could be fun. Created by Joss Whedon. He's no longer the showrunner on it, but he created it. So it looks really good. Bad Batch, I have less than zero interest in that. No interest in Bad Batch whatsoever. The Bad Batch episodes of the final season of Clone Wars, I thought were terrible. So I don't have any interest in it myself. I know other people are excited about it, and that's great, but me personally, I had no interest in it. All right, next up. Noob Jedi Master 69 writes, hey, John, you've probably seen articles about Brie Larson being cast as a powerful Jedi. I think that it was clickbait articles to provoke some people on the internet, in which they are, to me, just as bad as the people they're trying to provoke. Thoughts? No, I think, I heard that one. I'll give you 3 guesses. Anybody on the internet? Anybody in the live chat want to know what site I saw this written on? Anybody want to take a wild guess? You guys in the live chat? You can just go ahead and fire off what you think was it. And Ben Holmes was the first guy to put it in there. And Fobo, we got this covered. We got this covered. was the site that I saw it on. So, I mean, again, is it completely impossible that that could be something that happens? It's not impossible. Brie Larson is an Academy Award-winning actress who has said multiple times she's a massive Star Wars fangirl and would love to be in Star Wars. Could that happen sometime, someday? Maybe even sooner rather than later? For sure. It's possible. Is it something worth talking about right now? And do I believe any of those stories that are going around right now? No. But again, going back to what I was saying before, if there is any truth to it, eventually you will see it in the Hollywood Reporter. You will see it in Variety. You will see it in Deadline. Until that, not worth talking about. Don't pay any attention to it, dude. Don't pay any attention to it. They just make up these BS things to get clicks and things like that, so don't worry about it. All right, Phoebe Rocks writes, no idea if you saw the new Bad Batch trailer, but yet distinctly heard Ming-Na Wen's. Yes, that's definitely her character and her in it, doing the voice. Distinctly heard Ming-Na Wen's voice appear. Nice to see more of her in Star Wars. Bring in the cavalry. Of course, that was her character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I love her. And I quite like her character in Mandalorian, and she is, of course, going to be one of the main characters in the upcoming book of Boba Fett. So that's going to be great. So that was neat to see. Again, I didn't care about the Bad Batch trailer. I have no interest in watching it. I'm not going to watch it. It just doesn't look interesting to me. Now, if I hear from a million of you guys that it's great, like Harley Quinn, I'll probably check it out. But until I hear that, not interested. But seeing Ming-Na Wen was going to be in there, that was pretty interesting. All right, next up. Troy S. writes, you know what, John? Man of Steel is the best Superman movie of all time. Let's see that glorious bastard Henry Cavill behind you. Well, you can just get a glimpse of him. You can just see him right there. You just barely get a glimpse of him, Henry, in here overlooking the studio and protecting the studio. By the way, Ryan Nichols sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate that, man. Let's see. Let's move on here. That was Troy S. Next up, the Odin Son writes, hey, John and Rob. Rob is not here today. With the Fantastic Four coming, what would be your ideal MCU way to introduce Doom? Never care about that. I never care about that stuff. I always love the idea that the ruins of Sokovia could yield a new country, Latveria, spearheaded by a powerful figure, Doom. Remains of Ultron drones equals Doombots. I mean, there's possibilities there. There have been a lot of comparisons of the Ultron robots to Doombots. Like, that's been there before. Is that a direction they're actually going to go in? I don't know. Honestly, when it comes to stuff like this, you guys have heard me say this before. I never like to entertain about how do they bring this character in. I don't like doing that because we start writing our own script in our heads, and then when they don't do what we want them to do, people get upset. To me, I just adopt the mentality of you tell your story. If you're going to use Dr. Doom in something, then you bring him in the way you want to bring him in, and we'll just sit back and enjoy watching it. And if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. But I don't like to get into these ideas of how should they bring him in, because that is completely, like, for instance, I'll just give you an example of this. And I do this myself, Odin Son, and I'm desperately trying to stop doing it, but I do this myself. Because now you just created this whole scenario, but what if that's not the way they want the story of the MCU was overall to go, right? So that's great. You're making up ideas for one character without consideration for how do those types of things have a grander impact on the MCU. So, and that's why the story comes first, characters come second. So again, for me, anyway, like if they do it this way, great. Because that sounds interesting. And the Doombots things are definitely things they've talked about before. So that could work, but I'm not going to, I don't try to formulate, this is how you've got to bring in Galactus. This is how you've got to bring in Dr. Doom. This is how you have to bring in the X-Men. I try not to do that because it leads to people. We've seen it happen in Star Wars. We've seen it happen in DC. We've seen it happen in Marvel. It just leads to people getting upset that their theories didn't turn out. You know what I mean? So I try not to do that myself personally. Anyway, next up, we have the Walking Dead fan who writes, hey, John, love your show. Thank you so much, Walking Dead fan. I know you haven't been a big fan of the Clone Wars, and that is completely fair, as everything is art and subjective, but what is it about the show that doesn't sit well with you? Dude, I've gone over this 5,000 times in the last 5-6 years. I don't want to do it again. And how many seasons do you watch before stopping? I watched all of them. I mean, me and Christian, we did like talks about it all the way through to Yoda discovering secrets and Yoda having the fight with his darker self, and I followed it all the way through, even watched the newest season. Yeah, Clone Wars, just right from the very first episode of Sky Guy, right through to the end. It's just, yeah, and it's weird because I do like Rebels, and it's made by the same core team. The same core team makes both, and I like one but not the other. Yeah, go figure. But no, I've never liked Clone Wars. I have watched. There's just some perception out there that I watched them all. It's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I ended up watching them all, even though I swore I'm going to sneeze. Pardon me. I felt that way. I think I feel another one coming too. Anyway, just giving you guys a heads up. Could be another Campea sneeze coming in a second here. But I have never found it entertaining. I never found their stories particularly good. Yeah, it just never worked for me. But for whatever reason, Rebels did. Rebels did work for me by the same people. So, yeah, but I'm not going to go into some huge diatribe right now about all the things that I thought were terrible about Clone Wars. But it is what it is. I mean, I didn't think it was any good. There are a lot of people who love it, which is great. That's why I don't sit here and crap on it. But if you're going to ask me the question, I will answer it. Didn't work for me. But I did watch all of them because it's Star Wars. I've learned my lesson. I have no interest in watching Bad Batch now. But yeah, there's that. Okay, next up. Where are we at? Lawrence of Arrakis writes, I like that. Mixing a little bit of Lawrence of Arabia with Dune. I like it. Writing this on Tuesday. So this was yesterday that you wrote this. It's officially my last day to make this joke, as I, like many others, will finally be able to see Godzilla versus Kong tomorrow. Godzilla, save Mothra. Kong, why do you say that name? Oh, dude. I appreciate you acknowledging that's the last time, because I've months, we've seen that meme going around. Save Mothra. Why did you say that name? Months, but at least you're aware of it, and at least you're promising that's the last time, Lawrence. All right, excellent name though. I like it. Lawrence of Arrakis. I like that. 404, skill not found. 1 of 4 writes, I agree in advance. The MCU draws inspiration from, but is not a one-to-one of the comics. Absolutely. Has its own rules, magic, physics, metal hierarchy, etc. I also agree, my knowledge of comics can form a bias. Now, that being said, I still have a really hard time just accepting that a non-enhanced John Walker, and later Sam, can throw, calculate, and then catch Cap's shield without even popping a shoulder. Steve Serum enhanced not only his physical reflexes, but mental and tactical awareness. I'm trying to even play devil's advocate. Maybe he has tactical awareness from combat. Maybe he's used a shield for years in covert ops. Maybe he's Taskmaster. Maybe he's Hawkeye's cousin. Maybe he's One Punch Man. One Punch Man. Maybe he's One Punch Man's workout routine. Or maybe just because. But if it's not seen, it's just headcanon to make myself feel better. Just personally, it diminishes the awe that the shield skills have if Walker's interview montage is all we get. Always felt that while Mjolnir is harder to access, Cap's shield is way harder to use. All right, that is a fair observation, 404. It's a fair observation. Like, what Cap was able to do with the shield was not regular human. It's superhuman. The way he was able to manage and manipulate and use that shield, it just wasn't normal human, the ability to do it, right? Now, you could say that the shield is actually quite light. I mean, after all, we heard them say that in Wakanda, they weave vibranium into their clothes, right? So it's probably not a particularly heavy substance. So maybe the shield that Cap wields isn't, all that heavy. Maybe it's quite light. Maybe it is conceivable that a really good physically in shape person like Sam, like John Walker, could throw and catch that shield without popping out a shoulder. I can accept that. But yes, I agree. It is a little bit of a stretch that somebody without superhuman capabilities could wield that shield like Cap did in such a casual and easy way. I don't disagree with you. But that goes back to one of the things you were just saying of just because. Just because. But at the same time, you could easily make that argument about Batman, right? Like, Batman should not be able to do a lot of the things that he does as a non-enhanced human being, right? A lot of the things we see Batman do many times are things that are way beyond what a non-super enhanced human being should be able to do. We see it all the time. Like, if Batman jumped from there to there, sorry, human shins splinter into 1,000 pieces. If a regular human being, no matter how muscular, was punched in the face and went through that brick wall, his spine would be shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. We see, a regular human being cannot make that calculated jump that he just, we see it all the time, but it's a comic book character, so there is some suspension of disbelief. Again, I don't disagree with you, 404. You're right. Sam, John Walker, these guys shouldn't be able to handle Cap's shield the way Cap did. I agree. But we've seen it before. They do this a lot with comic book characters. And at some point, there is, as you so accurately said, just because. They're at some point, they're asking us to suspend disbelief and just buy into it. And yeah, it is what it is. But again, man, I think you're right. I do. I think you're right. I'm just able to move past it. You know what I mean? Like, I agree. That shouldn't be the way that works. But it's the way it's working in the show, so I accept it and I just move past it. So sometimes these types of shows ask us to do that, and sometimes it's easier than other times. How somebody's able to throw a shield to me is one of the easier things to just accept and move on from, I suppose. All right. Mahir Hawk writes, "You're getting my last name right." I hope I did. I hope I just got it right. All good. I think John Walker is a good guy in Falcon and will die a hero, which inspires Sam to take back the Cap title. I think with Secret Invasion, we'll see an evil Cap / USA agent. Skrulls need an in with the government. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not get into Secret Invasion or anything like that. But I do think there is a very legitimate possibility. Look, there are a couple ways they could go with John Walker. One, we could find out the way a lot of people suspect he's a bad guy. He's a villain, or he turns villain, right? That is a possibility, a very strong possibility. A lot of people believe that. Maybe the majority of the people believe that right now. However, I also agree that it is a possibility that he dies the hero. That he is actually a good guy. That he may actually die defending Sam or Bucky or something like that, and that inspires them to take back up the shield. That is a possibility. That goes a little contrary to what's in the comics, but these aren't the comics. This is the TV show. So I'm not necessarily saying, Mahir, that I buy into your theory, but I'm not going to discount it either, because I think that is a very viable possibility. Let's see which way, because, they're all about subverting our expectations. So let's see which way they go with that. All right, next up, Brooks Kirk writes, "Hey, John, big fan since your AMC days. Thank you so much, Brooks. I love the Snyder Cut of Justice League. I agree that all film is subjective and we are all entitled to our own opinion. That said, I disagree with you about Steppenwolf. Was a much improved character. Why is he flat to you? He wasn't. Listen, there are several different things about the Snyder Cut, the original version of Justice League, that are significantly better than the remade, cut down theatrical version that we got. Some things are 100% identical, but there are some areas that were definitively improvements. I do not think Steppenwolf was one of them. I'm sorry. I thought he was flat in the theatrical version. I think he's just as flat. giving him this poor, I just want to go home storyline that was thin at best, did not improve his story. It didn't improve his story. There are many other areas of this original version of Justice League that we can talk about that made significant improvements over the cut down version that eventually got into theaters. Several of them, but I just don't think Steppenwolf is one of them. It was the exact same character with the one extra little angle. I want to go home. It didn't. And so that to me, it was flat the theatrical. I thought it was still flat in this one. A lot of improvements in this original version, a lot of improvements, but to me, that just wasn't one of them. That's just me. But again, it's all subjective, and for different people, it made a night and day difference, and that's great. It just didn't for me. That's all. All right, next up. BK Dan writes, "Hey John, got a movie in 20. Fanboys. If you haven't seen it, it's a must see for all Star Wars fans." Okay, well that's interesting that you mentioned that. Let me see if I can bring this up for a second. Where is it? Let me see if I can grab this for a second. Okay, just give me one quick moment here to see if I can actually bring this up. I'm not sure if I can or not. So here's the thing. Here's an interesting thing. One of my friends, I have several friends who work in the industry and all that kind of stuff. I just think it's really fun that you mentioned fanboys. But one of my friends in the industry is this guy. This guy's a buddy of mine. This guy's name is Kyle Newman. And Kyle Newman is actually the director of Fanboys. Kyle Newman created and directed Fanboys. And he has been on my show over the years a number of times. He's been on my panel at Comic-Con. You know, every year at Comic-Con, I do a panel called Masters of the Web. He's been on my panel there a couple of times, including the last one that I did. I was actually just texting with Kyle. He's going to come in again and talk about this new movie he's got coming out. I believe it's called Gamer Girl. He's got a new movie that he just finished shooting up in Niagara Falls, actually. They went up close to my hometown to shoot there. And yes. So yes, I am very, very familiar with the movie Fanboys, and I'm very familiar with the creator of Fanboys. I was going to do Campea Classroom for Mortal Kombat, but I decided not to at the last second. Anyway, I was going to do that, but yes, Fanboys is a lot of fun. Fanboys is great. I just fell in love with that movie, and it's, you know, what's funny? When that movie came out, I did not yet know Kyle when that movie came out, but Kyle was familiar with my movie blog stuff, and Kyle and I had a mutual friend. And so when I completed my little rom-com movie that I did on no budget called The Anniversary, Kyle also knew I was a big fan of his movie Fanboys. Kyle, through our mutual friend, sent me this big framed autographed poster of Fanboys. And that's how we kind of first connected, and then we met, and then we kind of became friends after that. But I love Fanboys. Fanboys is great. And yeah, so there you go. Okay, let's move on. Next up, Joel Summers writes, Warner Brothers is going back to theatrical releases practice in 2022, but what about movies like Dune that will be caught in the failed attempt to release movies to TV and theaters for the first 30 days? Will Dune make enough to justify filming its second half? That is one of the main problems. Out of all the movies and all the directors and all the production partners that Warner Brothers raised the ire and anger of, the biggest problem they had was with Dune. Because Dune, they made in partnership with Legendary. Legendary put up 75% of the money to make that. And when Warner Brothers announced that they were going to release it day and date on HBO Max, that was news to Legendary's ears. Legendary had no idea. So Legendary was understandably pissed. Because they're like, we put up this money to make this movie because of the idea that we would make significant money at the box office with it, that it would also then be enough to justify doing another film that we would then finance and reap benefits from. And you pulling this move is not a part of that plan, and they were all very mad. I still believe, and I don't know this, I'm not willing to put money on this, I'm not planting a flag in this, I'm just saying right now, I speculate that Dune will end up being an exclusive theatrical release. I think they're not saying it right now. I don't think they're going to make that public right now. I think they're going to wait till they get closer to the release date of Dune. But my speculation and guess, and again, no inside information, this is just me speculating. I think Dune will be one that gets an exclusive theatrical release. I think Legendary let them do that with King Kong. And I think, and again, just speculating, I think that a part of the deal of letting them going ahead to put out King Kong that way was that you can't do it with Dune. So we'll see how that works out. To me, that is still the most interesting and fascinating question that's hanging out there. This dangling question of what's going to happen with Dune. That to me is the big question. And I think they're going to make it a theatrical exclusive. I mean, obviously they might not, they may not, but I think they probably will because Legendary needs to see enough money in that it justifies doing another one. And right now, Legendary is not really happy with Warner Brothers. So we'll see how that all goes, John. It is one of the most fascinating questions in the entire movie industry right now to me, is what are they going to do with Dune? All right, next up, John D'Amato writes, "Hello, John. I've really enjoyed the first couple of episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Me too. I wonder if Wanda would be a better person to contact to find out about Hydra's dealings post-Endgame than Baron Nemo? You mean Zemo? Zemo. She was a former Hydra volunteer. I don't think so, John, because she was basically kept in a cell, right? She was kept in a cell. She was not privy to all the inner workings of Hydra. Baron Zemo went and found all the secrets of Hydra. He got all of them, even the secret way to trigger off the Winter Soldier. Wanda, on the other hand, was a volunteer and experimented on and usually kept in a cage. So I think her probably operating knowledge of Hydra would be very, very limited. I don't think Sam or Bucky would have any reason to believe she would have high level intel on Hydra. So that's my take on it. That's why you go to Zemo instead of Wanda. Wanda probably wouldn't have known. All right, next up. Let's see. John D'Amato 2 writes, which leads us to the question, why would the Avengers split up after Avengers Endgame when the world is still in such chaos? It appears Wanda, Sam, Bucky all went their separate ways. Well, I mean, listen, I think a lot of questions get raised that we're going to get some answers to probably as we move forward. But I mean, let's look at what was the state of things at the end of Endgame. What was the state of things? The Guardians are gone. Thor has gone off-world. Black Widow, who was the de facto leader kind of at that time, while Captain America stepped away. Black Widow's dead. Cap is gone. Iron Man's dead. Doctor Strange, was he ever really a member? He never really was a member of the Avengers, officially. So what are you left with? You've got Rhodey. You've got an injured Bruce Banner Hulk. You've got Bucky, who was not really a member of the Avengers either. Bucky was never a member of the Avengers. So you had an injured Hulk, you had Rhodey, you had Sam, and Wanda kind of, went off book, obviously with the events of WandaVision. Wanda went completely off book. I mean, so what was the status of the Avengers at that point? Not sure. It's going to be really interesting to see as the MCU moves forward, what is the status of the Avengers? Who are even known as Avengers right now? Who is officially an Avenger? What is the status of the group? What is the new formation of the Sokovian Accords? We know from WandaVision that the Sokovian Accords are back in play, but in what way? How were the Sokovian Accords changed in light of the events of Infinity War and Endgame, seeing that the Sokovian Accords directly led to the splitting up the Avengers, which let Thanos come in and wipe out 3 billion lives. I mean, so there's a lot of these questions still hanging in the air, which I think makes it really riveting to see where they go with things as we're moving forward. And that, John, is just one of the questions hanging there. What's the status of the Avengers right now? I think we'll find out more by the end of the end of the season. I think we'll find out more. All right, just time for a couple more here, guys. Kina writes, speaking of release the umbrella cut, which of course you had to have seen yesterday's show to understand this. Speaking of release the umbrella cut, have you seen the movie Rubber about the tire? Yeah. I mean, sorry, let me rephrase it. I have not watched it, but I'm very familiar with it. So for those of you who don't know, let me see if I can find this here. Let me see if I can bring this up. Rubber trailer. This, I think I was with AMC at the time. Yeah, I kid you not. There's this movie called Rubber that is literally about a sentient, evil rubber tire rolling along the desert plains looking out for people to kill. I wish I was kidding. Look at it standing off with the police. You know, oh, look at it. It's moving. It's going to do something bad. It's going to kill people. Anyway, I never did get around to watching this particular movie, to be honest with you. I never did get around to watching it. I totally should have. I still remember. I can't remember if I think I was with AMC. I think I was with AMC at this time and us talking about this, but it's a ways back. It's a ways back. But no, I don't believe I ever actually sat down and watched, or if I did, I don't remember. But yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And that totally goes along with the conversation about the Umbrellas movie that we were talking about yesterday. Okay, let's move on here. Next up, Kara Black writes, based off your response to my Batman Superman message, I got the feeling you've never watched the 90s Superman animated series, which is in the same universe as Batman the animated series. Have you never really watched Superman the animated series? I watched a bunch of it. I know for certain I never watched all of it. And a lot of the Batman animated series I just watched on YouTube because I go down those rabbit holes. Again, didn't really like what I've seen. Not really for me. I'm a Superman guy, but and I do like the original Batman animated series. I did like that series, but all the stuff I've seen of the Superman one just didn't do it for me. But that's just me. That's just me. All right, next up, Casey McNatt writes, well, John, it took that pitch of killer umbrellas in order for Hollywood to give us a movie like Rubber. Another person wanted to talk about Rubber. A movie's like Rubber, a movie about a killer tire and killer sofa in a movie about a killer sofa. Look them up. They really exist, LOL. And yes, I do recall that one about a killer sofa as well. Like, for those of you who don't know what they're talking about, on yesterday's show, somebody asked me, what was the dumbest idea for a movie pitch I've ever heard? And I talked about a number of years ago when I was working at a CG company, a CGI animation and visual effects company. We got approached by a couple of guys who had this script, had bought the rights to the script, that wanted to know, they wanted me to go through the script and give them an estimate on what I thought it would cost to do the visual effects in this script. They were very inexperienced, these producers. And I think they were thinking the answer was going to be $50,000 when really base minimum, it was going to be $1 million to $5 million to do the visual effects that they wanted. And it was the story about these sentient, living, evil umbrellas that, as you research through history, all these powerful men always had one of these umbrellas. And it turns out the umbrellas were actually the brains behind everything. And it's about these killer umbrellas that have been around for centuries, or at least 100 years. Whatever. I can't even remember. But anyway, it was the most ludicrous thing I'd ever seen. It wasn't even meant to be funny. It was meant to be like, serious. This is going to be like, yeah, it was so bad. Anyway, that's why everybody's asking about these things about Rubber and comparing it to killer umbrellas, everybody. Killer umbrellas. All right, next up. Crazy Joe, Mega Podtastic writes, hey, John, do one night only Fathom event screenings count towards a movie's total box office gross? You're familiar with Fathom events. I've gone to several Fathom events. They simulcast movies in theaters all over the country. They do more than just movies. They also do special events. Anyway, all over the country on a single night, often presented by Turner Classic Movies or something else. If they show E.T., for example, does that get added to E.T.'s total box office gross? I'm going to guess yes. I'm going to take a wild guess, and I'm going to guess that the answer is yes. But if it's not, it's still a fairly insignificant number, right? So I'm going to guess whenever somebody has to buy a ticket to see a movie in a theater, that should and normally does count towards the box office gross of that movie. I don't know the answer to that specifically with Fathom Events, because they also do operas and all these stuff. They do a lot of different things, Fathom Events. But if they do a lot of Mystery Science Theater 3000 too, by the way, which I love that stuff. But my guess is going to be yes. But really, the bottom line is it would be such an insignificant number that it doesn't really matter. But theoretically, yes, those numbers should count, but maybe they don't. My guess is they do. All right. Umbrella Screenplay. See, I told you a lot of people are going to bring this up. Umbrella Screenplay writes, I do you one better, thinking this was a bad idea for a movie. There's literally a movie called Rubber. Again, everybody remembers Rubber. There's literally a movie called Rubber that a horror movie about a killer tire. I saw it on a movie review channel and I couldn't believe it. Love the show, even though you didn't like me. The Umbrella Screenplay. Again, yeah, and again, you guys should go on YouTube, do a search for Rubber trailer. It'll be one from 2010. Go and look it up, and it's one of those things that if somebody just told you about it, you'd never believe it's a real thing until you actually go on YouTube and see that it was indeed a real thing. Thanks for bringing that up, man. All right, last question of the day that we have time for. This one comes to us from Roll of the Egg, who writes, "Hey, John and Co. Netflix's Sisyphus is a Korean time travel pretzel twisted into a Mobius strip by Schrodinger's cat. Plot not always airtight, yet I continue to watch. Cool acting and some hate 'em. At 10:13, love 'em. At 10:17 moments. I have no idea what that means. Check it out if you can. I'm not going to lie to you. I've never heard of it. I probably won't check it out because I have a lot of things that I'm desperate to watch that I still don't have time to watch. But I have never heard. Have any of you guys in the live chat heard of this thing? Netflix, again, this is another case proving the point that Netflix is the absolute worst company out there at promoting their own content. I'm always hearing about these things on Netflix, and yet I've never heard about it because Netflix is terrible at actually putting it out. Now, Max Cohen is saying it's pronounced Sisyphus. Sisyphus. Okay, thank you, Max, for that. But I'm hearing some of you guys are saying, nope, you haven't heard of it. Justin's saying he hasn't heard of it. Jimmy22 is saying he hasn't heard of it. So no, I have never heard of it. Sounds interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of Korea, like Kingdom, the zombie thing. That's actually really, really interesting. Michael is saying he saw the trailer for it and it looks really bizarre. I'll tell you what, I will at least try to check out the trailer, Roll of the Egg. I will at least try to check out the trailer and see what I can find. All right. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. Seriously, you guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend some time here with us. Really appreciate that. Special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those live comments and questions. There are still more to come. Don't worry, we'll get a companion video up and we'll get all caught up on the questions. And by the way, guys, I, of course, am in just a couple of hours, I'm going to be going to watch Godzilla vs. Kong in the movie theater. Me, Ray, and Kimberly are going to go watch it. I'm very excited. And I am going to do a right out of the theater quick review. So keep your eyes on the YouTube channel today, probably around 5 or 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's LA time. I'll probably put up my straight out of the theater reaction to Godzilla vs. Kong. Keep your eyes open for that. And other than that, guys, don't forget we will be back again tomorrow for the John Campea Show. Make sure you guys come back and join us then. But for now, guys, remember to do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.